Let me get into the story that I blew right by yesterday, and my apologies for those who were waiting on the edge of your seat yesterday for me to do the teased story about, hey, you want to get on the no-fly list? Here's how to do it. Here's how to order. See, I read this story, and I didn't think it was that bad. But apparently, this turned into like a potential security risk on the flight. So, I mean, the actual, the setup here, hey, you want to get on the no-fly list? I mean, that's sort of rhetorical in a sense. But a passenger in first class on a Delta flight, the passenger was in seat 1B as in Bravo, asks a flight attendant a question, then the passenger is reported as being suspicious. So I'm guessing that probably a notation was made. I don't know if this is going to affect the passenger on future Delta flights. So what did they do? This story comes from another passenger that witnessed the whole thing and then told the story in a Reddit post. So this other Delta passenger watched what happened and why this was dubbed and why this was deemed suspicious. So in the post, a passenger says that they were in seat 2B, as in Bravo, right behind the so-called suspicious passenger in 1B, Bravo. They say the man in 1B...
1B Bravo?
Yep.
Okay, just make sure.
Called the flight attendant and asked why the flight attendants did not block access to the galley with the beverage cart when the pilot used the bathroom. Now, Michelle, how many times have we seen this on domestic flights, international flights? This happens all the time. I see it still constantly.
Yeah, I've seen it.
Post 9/11, we've seen this.
I mean, whenever we fly, but I haven't flown with you recently, so.
I've seen flight attendants stand guard. I don't know if the beverage cart was always there, but I've seen...
No, they moved the beverage cart.
Do
so
they?
post
Okay.
9/11,
Yeah.
because of the secure cockpit and the fact that they went to the hardened cockpit doors with the security code, back before 9/11, cockpit doors were, essentially the same as a cardboard box.
I feel like sometimes they left them even open.
Oh, yeah.
Like, you could just walk up and you could see what's going on in the cockpit.
Yeah,
and now it's
yeah.
like, Fort Knox.
So post 9/11, they use the beverage cart typically to prevent someone from like running up the aisle, charging and trying to gain access to the cockpit to potentially take over the flight or, incapacitate the pilots, because that's what happened on 9/11. They used the box cutters and they attacked the pilots and took control of the airplanes and then crashed them. That's what happened. So the man says, hey, when the captain went to the bathroom, why didn't you guys, block access, when he used the lavatory? And apparently it happened on his last flight. So I don't know if he witnessed it on that flight, but on his previous flight, I guess that's, hey, on my last flight, they didn't block. And the flight attendant's like, oh my God, why is this guy asking this question?
Why is he focused on that?
Because he knows protocol? I mean, that seems...
Fester, honestly, I could see that a question being MJ would ask.
I thought you were that guy.
Listen,
Didn't you sit in 1B coming back from somewhere recently? Didn't you sit front row, middle seat?
I did.
Yeah, I mean, that sounds like a you story.
I was on a Southwest flight. I was 1B. I was middle seat. I
thought the whole joke was that this was you.
No, it's not. No, it's not. But you know what? This is a question I would ask, and I'm not a danger. I'm not a threat. I'm not a hijack threat. But no, I might ask a question. Hey, why didn't you? The captain went to the bathroom, or the FO went to the bathroom. Why didn't you block the? I don't mean that as a security red flag.
Also, we don't know the tone of it all. I mean, the guy could have come in pretty hot as opposed to being more inquisitive.
The Reddit poster who witnessed this says the flight attendant was surprised by the question and then whispered the passenger in 1B's question to the head flight attendant. The head flight attendant approached the man in 1B and told him, I cannot answer questions related to security of the aircraft.
Or lack thereof.
Yeah.
I mean, fine. Call Delta Police.
Then the according to the passenger that witnessed this, the guy asking the question pushed back and said something like, "Seriously? You know why? Don't you remember 9/11?"
That sounds exactly like what you would say.
And then the flight attendant says, "We can't talk about this stuff. Thank you for letting us know what you observed on your prior flight." When the pilot went to the restroom later in the flight on that plane, they wheeled out.
You bet your ass
They had
Yeah.
2 flight attendants and the cart blocked galley access as the pilot came out, and they were all staring down the guy in 1B.
Yeah.
Fine. Stare me down and secure the plane.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But see, this is the kind of thing where you would say to me, "Hey, did you see when the captain went to the bathroom?
Yeah, why didn't they do that? Why, yeah.
And I would say to you, keep that to yourself.
No,
keep that question to yourself.
Then
And
he's
you'd be
gonna
like,
say-
well,
Then he's going to stop for like 20 seconds. He'll say nothing.
Mhm.
And then he'll say, I'm going to ask him.
mhm,
I'm going to
mhm.
ask. I'm going to inquire about it.
And I would say,
Don't get
No.
up.
And-
I can see the whole thing happening right now with you.
Then other commenters on the Reddit post
yeah,
were like saying, "Oh man, this dude's definitely on the no-fly list now, and he's going to be banned from flying on Delta."
you know,
I don't think that's. You know what? I tell you right now, the flight attendants didn't report it any higher than this flight because they don't want it to come back to them.
right.
One of their brethren were not following protocols according to this guy. Why didn't he say it on the flight that it happened?
Yeah.
That's the only suspicious thing in this.
And also, you can always email in comments. We get those surveys all the time. And if you don't get one of those, you can always just contact them, tell them your flight number, blah, blah, blah. I observed the flight attendants not doing this. I thought it was protocol. You know what? Delta will clear it up, or whatever airline it is.
They'll investigate it. They
Yeah.
have some kind of internal affairs,
Sure.
don't they?
Yeah. You just don't want to get on the no-fly list. You.
Hope you liked the video. If you did, then hit the like, share, subscribe, all this crap down here.